Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films. Here we are, third show of the year, preseason game 3 approaching, roster cut down. Plenty of roster talk on the channel, on my channel, on other channels. Just did a roster preview yesterday with Ryan from the Flock Rundown. That's on the channel if you want to hear the roster stuff. Also did a show with my guest upcoming, just talking about the defense from the Cowboys game, or the offense from the Cowboys game, rather, and going over some roster stuff too. So today we're going to mix it up a little bit. We've had a lot of talk about the end of the roster, guys. We're going to go by position groups. And of course, the big news of today, with the Lamar injury, we're going to touch on that. So here to join me, one of our favorites. If you're not subscribed, he's on YouTube, been on YouTube a little while now. Someone who's embraced me from very start. We've done draft shows together, all kinds of shows together. One of my favorite people. And as you know, if they're on this show, they've treated me well. Good person. So here he is to help discuss this Ravens roster with me. Mr. Film Study himself, Ken McKusick. Ken, how are you doing? And I'm just letting you know, since we had a little bit of technical difficulties at the beginning, I'm going to be drawing on your training camp experiences on this show, because you were out of practice every day. So how are you doing? And thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I appreciate it. No problem. So this is my first week not at camp. So you're aware of that this week. So we go through the regular scheduled summer practices, and then it's regular media only after that. So anyway, I heard about Lamar's injury. I probably know about as much about it as you do right now. And we're all a little bit on edge, I think.
We are. But yeah, I'm going to draw on your experiences though, for like when we talk about the position groups. What are you seeing? I remember talking to you about Keaton Mitchell early on, and you were excited and told us that burst was back, and we got to see it in that first preseason game. So I want to bring up some of the families already in here. Diego, what is going on? Jason Z, hey man, thanks for coming in early. Good evening, good sir. I hope this evening finds you well. Hey, we're going to have a good time here tonight. Ravens fan 86. Ken, recognize Mike maybe from your show in the comments. Ravens fans 86. It's good to see you in here. Chris, member of the channel, one of the MVPs of the channel. We were just over in Ravens Wired. I didn't get to finish the whole thing, Ken, because I had some show prep. But Chris is always in here. Cosmonaut Project, thank you. Thank you for the music. Longtime friend there. And we'll get to more comments as we go on. Taking that off the screen. But Ken, today's news was a little bit, wanted to get your opinion on this, because it kind of struck me the wrong way. It's like if Lamar's foot got stepped on, and that's what the reporters reported, and they said, hey, Lamar's foot got stepped on, and Harbaugh comes to the podium and says, Lamar's foot got stepped on, he should be fine. We're just being extra cautious. We don't want to stress it. We want to take a look at it. That would be one thing. But on Twitter 5 hours ago, Jeff Zrebiec and others reported that Lamar was holding his wrist hand area, stayed in for a few plays, and then came out. And then when they approached a quote-unquote team spokesman, that's when the team spokesman said that Lamar got stepped on. Also saw a report out there from Jeff Zrebiec that Ronnie Stanley rushed to help him up. So it's just like, the Ravens with their injuries, notoriously ambiguous, sometimes throwing the opponents off, which I don't really have a problem with, because I'd rather our opponents not know than us know. I know I'm kind of weird with that. A lot of people would like to know, but I don't have a problem with it. But your concern level with Lamar, what's your just gut read? And none of us know.
Yeah, I'm trying not to think about it too much. I'm concerned as hell. And I think the correct answer is always just give no information on this. I think John Harbaugh actually has a tough time with this particular element of his podium awareness or presence. He tries to be liked a little too much, and he doesn't just use the Belichick method of our only comment is no comment on injuries. And that would be the right thing to do on this. It's the right thing to do on Ardarius Washington through this entire year. If Ardarius Washington has surgery, no one on any other team needs to know about it. Just go the whole year with our only comment is no comment. Would be just fine. And I'm sick of what might be up with Lamar here, but hopefully it's not a big deal.
Well said, Ken. I agree with you. Hey, fans in here, Chris, Jason, everybody else, what's your concern level on this? Mike, is it automatic? Just are you with Ken, where it's just like out of our control, we're not going to worry about it? Or is this something that you're going to be thinking about this evening as we go through this show? I'm going to try to be cool about it, Ken. But I mean, he is the franchise. Put the Ravens statistics from the regular season up at the bottom as we go through. So, Ken, glad you're here because like I said at the beginning, I had a lot of roster shows. I'm going to be on the vault this Monday, giving my final roster predictions. So I'm kind of like end of the rostered out, bubble talked out. People can find that on my channel already. So I wanted to go through with you tonight, Ken, is the position groups by themselves. And we'll spend like 5, 6, 7 minutes on each, get through all 10 of them, 11 of them, and rely on the chat to hear their thoughts, see what they think coming out of the this Ravens roster that looks pretty good to me on paper. Ken, what do you feel about the roster overall? First of all,
Yeah, I mean, really excited about it as it stands with Jackson, of course, but really excited about it. And it's all of the problems that the Ravens have in terms of their roster are first world problems. So I put out a call for concerns episodes today, and people came up with 17 different concerns within 10 minutes. But they're all like really minor stuff, like the guard depth is not what we would like, which is it's non-trivial if you don't believe in either starting guard. But the Ravens have like 5 guys who might be able to play guard, so the drop off is not that much, particularly if you think if you're one of the people who doesn't really believe in Daniel Faalele. And if you don't, well, then they've got 3 other options on the team in Dellinger and in Bullock and in Cleveland, who might be able to go in and do the job. So it's guard depth an issue. I don't know. It seems pretty good to me, honestly, in terms of IOL depth right now.
Feels good to be spoiled as a fan, though, because to your point, there are teams with real issues. I mean, number one, not having a quarterback. That's always the number one issue. But besides that, I mean, look at the team in black and orange in our own division, getting their first team defense torched. Can't say I feel bad for him, Ken, the Cincinnati Bengals. So, it is what it is, as they say, as Brian Billick once coined. And hey, Tila is in here, and Zhang is in here. Hey, Flock, and I saw Zhang's original message. I see you in there. Ditch the sunglasses. No sunglasses picture. So it's great to see you guys, the family coming in here. So, Ken, let's start with these quarterbacks. Let me get my graphics straight, sir. Quarterbacks on this team, Lamar Jackson and Cooper Rush. We're really blessed to have Lamar. I mean, last season, Ken, I made the argument on the channel that Lamar's season as a quarterback, you can argue it was the greatest quarterback season of all time. And there's all kinds of ways to measure this. But the fact that he was 4th all time in passer rating, the touchdown to interception ratio 41-4 is insane. He led the league in yards per pass and yards per rush, and rushed for over 900 yards. So, I mean, there are other comparable passing seasons, of course. There's some that you could argue were better, but you throw the 900 and some rushing yards, then the impact that he has making plays, something out of nothing, the impact that he's had on every single running back that's come through here. I mean, just think about like Gus Edwards fell off a cliff as soon as he left. Guys, career years coming here. We are just so blessed. And with all what I've been saying, Ken, is with all the, stress we have trying to get over the hump and all, we really need to take time and understand how lucky we are to have Lamar Jackson.
I think that's a very difficult thing for a spoiled fan base to do. So they've had a lot of success with Lamar Jackson now, really since his very first year in the league. Obviously carried him to a 6-1 run down the stretch. They lost the playoff game. I think things were still kind of at an all-time high after that game in terms of the second half and the comeback in that. But it's great to have Lamar Jackson, and yet anything less than the Super Bowl is unacceptable. And it leads fans to say some frankly fairly outrageous things with regard to wanting to go all in every single year. And, they basically are willing to die on the hill with any 30-year-old receiver who's available in terms of things. I find overreactions are magnified when you have a quarterback as good as Lamar.
Yeah, pressure's on, buddy. I mean, look, hey, we all want it. I'm to the point, Cam, where I don't know if this was you, but between 2008 and when we finally won the Super Bowl, every year increasingly, I wanted it more for those guys. I wanted Ed Reed to get one. I wanted Suggs to get one. I wanted Yonda to get one. I wanted Nada to get one. I wanted Flacco after being doubted and Skip Bayless talking about him every single day and getting dogged. And well, the Ravens can't win it because the other team has Ben Roethlisberger and Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. The Ravens have this sorry Joe Flacco. Like, I wanted it for them almost more than I wanted it for us. Mm-hmm. And this Ravens team like this version of Lamar, the Lamar era, I'm there, brother. I'm there. Like, I want Lamar to win this, to hush everybody up. And before you go, Ken, I need to give a shout out to Don C. Gifting 5 Huddle It Up Films memberships. Don, you are the man. It's the D-O-N to the C, bro. Call him Don C. Got more game than Kaliko. One of my old-time MVPs, Ken, is Don C. Just a big fan of his. See him in there with Sutton, the Purple Rain Pod. Just a really good person, good dad, hardworking individual. Love seeing Don in here. And Dwiz is in here, your Paso. What is up? What is up, Dwiz? Stealing your Paso in the Ravens Wired film, and I saw you saw that, so I hope you like it. And we also got one from Ash Marie. Had to come say thanks for the membership at Don. Thanks, Ash. Like, even if you're shy and you don't type a lot, just thanking somebody for the membership. That's what it's all about. Football is family. Same's to Judge Dredd. Appreciate you. Judge Dredd presiding over this podcast, Ken. What do you like about that pun? Judge Dredd is presiding. So I love it. So, hey, we're going to do that from time to time here, Ken, on the show. We love my football family and like to get them involved. Cooper Rush. A lot of slow starts. I was listening to Cordell saying he just, all the interceptions. He wants to give all the credit to the defense, but it's not something he's seeing. He was asked to compare Cooper Rush to Josh Johnson. Is it an upgrade? He had a hard time saying it was. He was basically like, look, and I'm paraphrasing here. Cordell's, of course, much more professional than me. He was like, look, Cooper Rush makes more plays. Josh Johnson took care of the ball better. That's what I got from his statements. How are your feelings on Cooper Rush, especially with the news today? Hopefully, man, Lamar's ready to go, but we got Cooper Rush in these first 4 games, say, just a scenario to throw out there. And we're facing 3 hard teams in the Cleveland Browns and a divisional opponent. What's your confidence level here?
Yeah, that would pretty much skewer the season if that were the case. So let's hope that's not the case. Rush had his best game of the preseason, or his best game as a Raven. He took a huge step forward. Was my MVP for the offense in this last game. The 2 interceptions were really not his fault, or maybe you can call one half of the first one his fault, half on the officials. It's a little bit on Wester, too, for wanting the flag more than he wanted to play defense on the play. And then the second one was all on Ali in terms of it going right through his hands. So I thought he took care of the football very well, moved the team well down the field. So at least that was a step forward for Rush and something we hadn't seen a lot of all year. Still kind of gets rid of the ball quickly, and the ball doesn't travel at a very high velocity to its target either. So we saw that on the Kirkwood interception that we talked about on my show for a little bit of time in terms of just how slow that play went. But I'm higher on Cooper Rush than I was at this week last time. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, and hopefully he's getting the bugs out and working the system. But the quarterback room overall is great because of number 8. So yeah, wanted to give Lamar his shout out, his flowers, and especially today, man. Get well soon, Lamar. Hopefully it's just nothing and we're just overreacting because we care so much. This running back group is a really nice group. Now, you'll notice on these the bars that I have, the players that we're discussing, this is not a roster prediction show, okay? So I'm going to put up everybody who's in the ballpark to contribute a lot of times, or the main characters here in these position groups. Derrick Henry, Justice Hill, Keaton Mitchell, Rasheen Ali. Ken, with this group, I want to ask this. And I would love the family to weigh in on this. Let's say this is a game in which it's a pretty close game, but the Ravens are able to run the ball. They have a decent amount of plays. We'll give it a round number so everybody's math is easy on this, Ken. We'll say the Ravens have 30 touches among their running backs. Maybe that's a little too high because Lamar's going to get a few. How about 25? What do you want to go with, Ken? 25 or 30 for the touches?
Either one is fine. So there's be a few receptions in there as well as runs. So
what do you think? What sounds best?
Could do 30 if the easy math. Go ahead. Let's do that.
All right. Okay. 30 touches among this group. So You want to get Derrick Henry his touches. Justice Hill is going to get some passes out of the backfield. Obviously, he's our pass protection guy. If it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, Justice Hill will be in the game. And then how do you deny Keaton Mitchell? Ken, coming to you, a 30 touch game, so count their receptions and their carries. How would you split it up in an average game among these three monsters?
35, 6. Sorry, 30, 19, 5, 6, and 0.
Right, the 0 at the end.
So 19 for Derrick Henry, 5 for Justice Hill. Most of those are going to be on the end of passing plays. If he's in on mostly 3rd down, I think we won't see Justice Hill as a change of pace back this year on early downs. I think that'll be entirely Mitchell. Where it's not obvious whether you have to run or pass. I also think we're going to see a lot of Mitchell in pony as a flanker, in positions that we consider non-standard for a running back. And they'll take advantage of his speed for misdirection and whatnot, and they'll give him the ball some because, hey, to do that, you have to get him the ball some to make him the threat that he is. And then Ali, I think we'll see just on kickoff returns. If he is the 4th running back, and I'm not sure it would happen if Likely were healthy. In fact, I think this is another thing. I wouldn't have said that we're going to start the year with 4 running backs, because what you're really telling everybody is Likely's not going to be ready to start the year. And I just would not have given that away in the way Harbaugh did at the podium. So Likely probably is out to start the year. It's the only way I can see Ali getting a spot on the team. And I think it kicks the can down the road on him being potentially cut. Now, maybe they have another injury. And, that's the nature of can kicking, is something else can bail you out. So it's that may be what they're looking to do with Ali. I don't think he's not a real high risk, 20 to 25% chance maybe of being claimed if he is cut.
So I don't want to go back and forth too much with this, Ken, but I think 9 linemen, 4 running backs to start the season, and you call up Dellinger. Well, everybody's healthy to start the season. Call up Dellinger or call up one of the other guys from that. So that's where Ken and I disagree. We talked about this on his show, by the way, Film Study Baltimore. Film Study Ravens on Twitter, and Film Study Ravens on YouTube. Ken, what's the YouTube?
It's Film Study Baltimore Ravens Talk, I think is what the name of the podcast is, and I believe that's what it's out on YouTube as.
You'll be able to see that, and I'll put that in the comments as well, but you can hear Ken and I full discussion. So we did have some predictions. Dwiz, very similar, Ken, 18, 6, and 6. And Chris, 15 for Henry, 5 for Hill, 5 for Mitchell. And she put Lamar's touches in there. Respect. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're on the same page. Ken, one thing that struck me about what you said there is your confidence level that the Ravens are going to be able to get Keaton involved in a multitude of different ways. I know you really can't give away what you've been seeing at camp, but what makes you so confident that the Ravens are going to do what we all want them to do, and that's get Keaton involved in this game plan somehow?
He's just the most explosive running back by far in camp. Derrick Henry, it's really hard to get a gauge on where he is right now because no one will stand in front of the man in camp. They won't even stand in front of him to faux tackle him.
That's
so
wild.
They just kind of a step out of the way. So I know in real life, when between the whistles, they're going to have a hard time wanting to stand in front of him as well. But Mitchell is just incredible. He's been very bursty. He seemed to have good field vision. If you look at the first preseason game, had 2 great vision runs. They both actually ended up going through the C gap, but one was a straight through the C gap run where he saw it the whole way, and the other one he had to bounce to the C gap to make it happen. Then he got to the Gandalf 3 doors moment in the long run for the touchdown. I don't know if you saw this, but he had a block on the right side, or a block that might have developed on the right side. He followed that of the 3 of them and was able to get into the end zone past Wooler, who tried to make the tackle. Been breaking tackles, incredible cutting ability again. So that's one of the things about him that was just, he could jump cut in addition to being this fast and this powerful with contact. He's bigger than he was in 23. I think he's probably almost as fast. And I can't believe he's as close to who he was in 23 as he is right now.
Pretty amazing comeback for Keaton Mitchell. Love all that information. And yeah, I think people focus on his speed so much that his shiftiness kind of gets lost, and his contact balance. So, he's low to the ground there. So this receiver group, Ken, the new age Baltimore Ravens receiver around the league gets cut. Ravens fans aren't screaming for him because we have a pretty good group here. Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman, Hopkins, Tez Walker, Tylan Wallace, and LaJonte Wester. What, just general question, Ken, what stands out to you about this group?
So the top two are head and shoulders above everybody else. There's no question about who's going to be on the field in most two receiver sets. Hopkins is there, and he's had some knee problems, and I think expectations should be managed. I don't think he's going to be a big high target, high yardage guy this year by any standpoint. If you look at what OBJ did a couple of years ago, I think he probably will be below that, I would say. And he probably will not have quite the yards per target, may not have the number of targets that OBJ had. And we kind of hope for that because that's an indication the Ravens are playing well. Devontae Walker's had a big camp, had a good first game. They took him out of his comfort zone to catch a number of short passes and comeback passes. The big thing that I've been talking about all basically offseason is Devontae Walker needs to add comeback routes that will allow him to capitalize on his speed, because he has to have something to sell to the opposing cornerback.
That's right.
Tell him he's going short when he wants to go deep.
Right. If you can only go deep, then the cornerbacks or DBs are going to give you that extra cushion. So just even to be threatening, like the out route that he ran against Dallas, it wasn't a really crisp, route. It was rounded, but it was on time. It was on time, and Cooper Rush was even able to get him the ball all the way to the sideline on time. So it was a decent enough route. If he's getting that cushion where he can break you off and kill you, beat you 6-7 yards at a time, that's huge for Tez. And I'll pose this question to you and to the family. The Ravens say they're in more shootouts this year. Say, the games are higher scoring. Is it possible, do you see, because you mentioned that Zay Flowers, Rashad Bateman have obviously been the best two wide receivers in camp. Could both of those guys push 1,000 yards if the Ravens are throwing the ball more than we would like?
It would take a big unexpected increase. I mean, if the Ravens, let's put it this way. We want the Ravens to outscore their opponents by 150 plus points this year. 170 would be even better. If they do that, they're going to be running the ball a ton. Everybody's going to be dissatisfied. People are going to be saying, why is Lamar not throwing for 4,000 yards and he's got 3880 or something? And there's not really a problem with that. If the Ravens are winning ball games and they could do it without throwing the ball, they certainly would prefer to do that. But will either of those? I can't come up with a combination of targets and yards per target that would get Bateman to 1,100 yards, which is a number that Dev Panchwa has predicted for him. So I can't make that happen. So what I'd say is, don't predict total yards. It'll just frustrate the hell out of you. Predict yards per target and targets, and try and work off historical numbers. And you'll realize, the reasonable number is maybe 850, 900 yards. And if he does that, that's, he's probably really coming through for the Ravens in the way they need him to. He's probably making the plays they need him to. With Flowers, maybe it's 1,000. He'll get more targets. He has more of the gadget play targets to act as a baseline and bump that number up.
And our guy, Jeremiah W., I just wanted to bring him up. Thanks for coming in, J-Dub. It's good seeing you. 5,000 yards. We'll take it. We can run up the score a couple of times, Ken. We don't have to be running out the clock all the time. So
I like reasonable schmeasonable.
Reasonable schmeasonable, yeah. Ken sometimes can be very reasonable. I think that's a good quality overall. So the tight ends, Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, Pat Ricard, Cholik Kolar. Yes, on this channel we put Pat Ricard with the tight ends because when he's working out in the blocking dummies, he's not doing running back spin drills. He's out there with the tight ends blocking and catching passes. So for the, obviously he's a fullback, but for this exercise, we're putting Pat Ricard with this tight end group. And, quite frankly, Ken, important player here is Pat Ricard, especially with Likely's injury. If they need to go with just the two tight ends in Mark Andrews and Charlie Kolar, they can do that because Pat Ricard can pick up a block and roll. Am I correct in saying that in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I think they have a lot of other options offensively. This team has a tremendous number of weapons they can put on the field. You add Wester and Mitchell to this 25 team that weren't there in 24. You have a lot of additional gadgetry as possible. Wade is a guy who had 45 receiving yards and 48 yards after the catch in this last game. So they have guys. Wade won't be on the team, unfortunately. He might be a elevation at some point during the year, but they have guys who can certainly take that gadget role. And Wester and Mitchell, frankly, with Likely's absence, should just get more playing time. I mean, this should create more opportunity for them. I don't think there's a huge pressure to go to 3 wide receiver sets. They'll do some of that too, but I think the Ravens have a lot of options. Looking at their depth overall of their skill position players, I think you could see them using a fresh legs approach where they would really try and rotate in players. So you basically have 2 options. You can try and keep the same players on the field and run a no huddle offense. You can run it normally and not have any particular gain in terms of having players come in and out, or you can maximize players in and out. That's the Saints teams, the early 2010s ran that sort of offense, and you could tire a defense out, particularly on long drives doing that. So I'd be kind of excited to see that, given how much top to bottom quality there is in this skill position group.
Hey, we can do it. I wouldn't be surprised if they use cadence early on. Undisciplined defenses that are just feeling their way into the game, kind of that depend on not the fresh leagues approach early on, but more of a cadence driven, no huddle driven. Let's really just test their guys. And then as the season gets on, Ken, then guys start getting like, hey, let's bring in the fresh legs because we have more offensive weapons than you have defensive players. And, you barely have 11 good players on defense. If that, you can't be substituting in and out safeties and all that other stuff against this Ravens offense. So yeah, I'm impressed with the tight end group. Charlie Kolar, how would you expect his role to change, if any, these first few games without Likely, if Likely doesn't play? Like, something tells me that Charlie's role isn't going to expand too much, that he'll be asked to do a lot of the same things as that inline blocking wide tight end, and they'll just use D-Hop in the slot, or like you're saying, Keaton Mitchell is in the pony backfield, those kind of things, and not try to make Charlie Kolar do everything Isaiah Likely was doing.
Right. I don't really see that. I don't see him being changing into a flex player. I mean, they could do it, I suppose, if they want to put Ricard in line on plays where Ricard would have normally been out of there and say a 12 look. But I don't see that as really being a way that the team would go. Kolar probably gets a few more receiving opportunities just because of the absence of Likely, but I think that'll come kind of organically from a combination of being in line almost as much as he was last year, plus a few more flexes. Yeah,
Jason Z's on the same page with us. If Likely misses time, short-term IR or not, Nuke will run a lot of his routes. And that, hey, this is as fresh as DeAndre Hopkins is going to be for the season. So if he's okay, and maybe these first 4 games is where you get that payoff from DeAndre Hopkins. So Ken, let's move to the tackles. Let's split them up. Ronnie Stanley, Roger Rosengarten, Noteboom, and Vincent. A lot of Vincent talk, a lot of Noteboom talk going on. So I want to focus on the top 2 guys here. Ronnie Stanley, Roger Rosengarten. Can Ronnie repeat what we saw last year? I guess once you hit 30, regression is what you worry about, not like improving. And then for Roger, the opposite. Can Roger take the next step, maybe not need as much help as he did last year with chip blocks and tight ends on his side, and improve in the run game? What have you seen out there from Ronnie and Roger?
You don't see a lot in the preseason. First of all, these guys don't really play in the preseason. Rosengarten's had 24 snaps or something, or maybe it's 31 now. It's relatively few. And Stanley hasn't played at all. Stanley basically has not had any live fire that I've seen directly, because of Colts practice I watched the defense. So I didn't see him play there either. So a lot of brother-in-law play when you're going against other players that are on your team, even in padded practices. It's not, you just don't see the high effort going on there. So what I'll say is, if he could repeat last year, it'd be terrific. Roger Rosengarten, we probably want him to take a small step forward in terms of what he's doing. It'd be nice to know that Rosengarten could play on the left side, but I guess it's the number 3 guy that worries the hell out of me right now.
Yeah, Noteboom. We hope that they're healthy. I mean, the good thing is with this team is Bunkin has shown some flexibility in the way that he's able to scheme things, but Rosengarten, Ronnie Stanley, that's a luxury for the Ravens if they played like they did last year, and we can hope that they repeat. Now the guard center position, I don't think it's fans are off base. I'm with them. This is, on paper the weakest group of the on the offense for sure. Great receivers or great running backs, good receivers, great tight ends, quarterback of obviously best player in the game. Voorhees, Linderbaum, Faalele, Cleveland, Corey Bullock. Props to Corey Bullock and Dillinger. What did you learn out there in camp, Ken, about any one of these guys? I'm just trying to leave it wide open to you so you can impart some knowledge on us.
So, I mean, I'm impressed with what Faalele has done this offseason in terms of really trying to hone his craft. So he's spent the offseason on football. He went to a camp to learn offensive line play. Duke Manyweather he was
Right.
going to see.
No line masterminds for anybody out there. Yeah.
So this is a really good thing. And, we all the players who take the time to do position specific training, I have the deepest amount of respect for. Guys who just want to work out, pretty much all players want to do that. And they want to, many of them want to get away with just doing that, which is, I wouldn't call it advisable. I think particularly for a young player, particularly for someone like Faalele, who has tons of physical gifts and is missing some of the technique elements of playing the position, is a good expenditure of time. I wouldn't be really concerned about the one sack he gave up. We saw, a duplicate steamrolling of Ben Cleveland basically the next week, almost identical in terms of what it looked like. But the important thing about Faalele, as far as I'm concerned, is the most recent, most pertinent evidence from last year. He finished the year with 309 snaps in his last 5 games, gave up 2 pressures, 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks, and had no penalties. Now, there's a whole lot of frustrating run blocking that is slow-footed, and there's some indecision in there too that goes with that. But the truth of the matter is, kind of like on-base percentage and slugging percentage in baseball, pass blocking is way more important than run blocking. Is it 2 times or 2.5 times? I'm not sure, but I could probably make the case for at least that, because the higher leverage downs are where pass blocking is more important. So you really need to be good on those downs. That's where the big exchanges of value come, are on passing plays as opposed to on run plays.
Yeah, and we see the same thing, Ken. I've gone on and on. I would like a more versatile run blocking right guard, but that's not what we have. And I'm ready to root for Faalele that he does a good job. And to me, it looks like he's making a more conscious effort to get off the snap quickly. Noticed an outside zone blocking play where he was basically jumping the snap like you would see an edge rusher to try to get up, turn those hips, and get that lead arm out.
Are you seeing them keeping 9 or 10 on the offensive line? Because I'm seeing 10.
Yeah, no, I'm a 9 guy. I'm a 9 guy, and that's why I think they keep Likely to decoy. I think they even if you can just get Likely for the Kansas City game, I think the Ravens consider that worth playing. And if they have to play with a 52-man roster for 4 weeks, I think they do that since everybody's healthy. So you're going to have healthy inactives, healthy scratches. So that's my own personal roster prediction. Like I said, Ken and I will disagree on that one, and you'll get to see all his coverage. And I talked it out with Ryan from the Flock Rundown on the channel yesterday. So that's on the live tab as well. Before we switch over to the defense, though, Ken, Andrew Voorhees, man. You mentioned, at the practices and the training camp practices, they're not all padded practices. Most of them aren't. There's really not a lot you can tell. I mean, I don't even know what kind of angle you got and the massive humanity and the bodies you got to see through. But on the all-22 for these limited snaps, I mean, and plus he looks great. But is there anything else? Can you add to that from your own experiences out there at camp, or just talking to the players, coaches, or anything you can give us on Voorhees?
I guess maybe I'd say there's some evidence that he's able to turn some of that real grown man strength into functional on-field strength. He looks like he has the minimum level of mobility necessary to play left guard for the Baltimore Ravens. And I've said this before on my show a lot, so a lot of people, you guys have probably heard it, but the Ravens have turned some very average athletes into good pullers in their system. James Hurst and Bradley Bozeman being the best 2 examples I could give you. Guys that really aren't particularly mobile, but they look good within the Ravens system. So I think he should be okay in that regard. There were complaints about him early in camp. The 31 snaps looked terrific. Honestly, I'd say the same thing as I would about Faalele. That's about half a game of normal activity. If you score offensive line play, there's a lot of variation game to game. You'll note, I mean, players get an A one week and a D the next because they get either penalized twice or they give up a sack and have a penalty kind of thing. That's going to that kind of variation I still expect. I don't think Andrew Voorhees is playing at the level PFF has scored him through 31 snaps so far this summer.
I like it. I like it. Jason Z throwing it out there. Did he thinks Cleveland will get the Brent Urban handshake and EDC will be willing to keep Dillinger as a number 9? Okay, so Jay-Z has 9 on there too. And I think Harbaugh alluded to them having 9 in the press conference, whether you want to believe Coach on that or not. So, Ken, just give me a moment here. I'm going to switch over to the defense. Get the defensive rankings up there. Man, tale of 2 seasons, though, Ken. Just a crazy start, crazy. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It didn't look like they were practicing. Defense was so disorganized. And then they turned it on. Maybe that had to do something to do with the opponents they were playing down the stretch. But they really turned it on. So let's start with these defensive tackles, a really strong group. Now, Ken, this is where I'm confused as all get out. So I want to take a little bit more time maybe on this group than the others. Matabike, Travis Jones, Broderick Washington, Peebles, all expect to make it. 5 defensive linemen seems about right. The battle for backup nose tackle between CJ Okoye and John Jenkins couldn't be more different. John Jenkins, 13-year veteran. If you want somebody to go in on that big Buffalo number 1 ranked run blocking offensive line week 1, you probably feel a little more comfortable that John Jenkins, the moment isn't going to be too big for him. But CJ Okoye, the upside, the kid from Nigeria. What college did he go to? None, because he wasn't here. He spent a year, I believe, on the Chargers practice squad. They cut him. We pick him up. 2 years, was it? Thank you, Ken. And so there's nothing in his Pro Football Reference. No games played, never played an NFL game. But the way he's manhandling these interior offensive linemen in the preseason is just impressive. And they don't make men the size of CJ Okoye. So how do you handicap that battle between Okoye and John Jenkins for nose tackle number 2?
So there's a few things going. First of all, I wouldn't rule out Jason Jones. So Jason Jones has played well twice in a row in the preseason. I think he should be in the discussion. Jenkins has $325,000 of guaranteed money in his contract, which a lot of people say, well, they're not cutting him. Well, the truth of the matter is, because he makes about $1.85 million, they can still save about $700,000, even considering the loss of the guaranteed money, by having either Okoye or Jones be the 5th defensive tackle. Either of those guys, they're the only 2 guys who can replace Jenkins because they're the only 2 nose tackles. So the Ravens need a backup nose tackle, not a backup 3-tech or 5-tech or whatever. And so Brent Urban coming in and re-signing doesn't address that problem. He just provides additional depth at 3/5, we'll call it. He's really a 5-tech by trade. But on the nose, and getting back to the 3-way thing here, Okoye, the reason I kind of like him at this point, although there are negatives to him too, is that you get 4 years of Okoye or 1 year of Jenkins. And so I'm almost always in favor, particularly for a cap strap team, to go after the multiple years, even if you're taking a little bit less this year. And I'm not sure you're taking less this year. I think you're just taking a gamble, and it might not work out at all. And you'd be then kind of kicking yourself for letting Jenkins go. Jones, same thing. The big thing about Jones is he's in way better shape than he was at Auburn. So if you watched him play, guy looks different, entirely different in terms of his physique since then. He's slimmed down. I think he was at 355 at Auburn. He's now 335. The Ravens list him at. But he doesn't really look fat in the same way that he did at Auburn. Auburn, he really looked like he's having trouble getting around, and he's had some nice walk back pressure that we've seen in this preseason so far. So all of them have done pretty well. Jenkins has gotten some pressure in just a very few pass rush snaps. Okoye's had a few very big plays. Okoye took a real big step back in the second game, and there's been some conditioning issues with him that I've noticed at camp. So he's been in there huffing and puffing. They sent him over to the stationary bicycle, and it's just that's not a great look. But
Okoye.
part of that is not really knowing. Jenkins been over there with him too sometimes, by the way. But part of that is just not really knowing how to pace yourself for football, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's all going brand new to him. So if they said if something happens to Travis Jones, maybe somebody steps on him, and you have to ride with your backup nose tackle for most of the game. Again, we're talking some big games early in the season. That's the scary part. So we touched on the battle for backup nose tackle between Okoye and Jenkins. Chances are one of them are going to make the roster, the other one isn't. Where does Brent Urban fit in here as the 3 to 5 tech?
So he'll start on the practice squad. I'm sure that's the understanding, and then he'll come to the team in week 2. So that gives multiple advantages to the Ravens. First of all, that they only have to pay him on a week-to-week basis for the year. They could handshake him right in week 1, by the way, too. If they had if he was down to being the 5th offensive lineman or defensive lineman because Peebles got hurt or Washington got hurt, those are the 2 guys he can really replace. Right. Then it would be such that they would get him on the roster to start the year and possibly still handshake him through to that point, which would create a 56th roster spot for the Ravens. So you get 2 free ones, but this would be another one that would be done by handshake deal. So they could do that, or more than likely, I think, assuming the depth holds up, he'll be on the practice squad to start the year, and he'll be elevated as needed, and then brought up onto the roster when needed as well.
Really deep group. Thank you, Ken, for all your analysis on that. Excited for Matabike, excited for Travis Jones. Can he finally just put it together and stay healthy? Broderick's been solid. Peebles, Chris was just talking about how much she likes him. Exciting player, just gives us something different, and he's all over the place, man. With the nickname Fub, effing up backfields.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
No, I came up with that, Ken.
That's good. I mean, he's looked terrific in these first 2 games. I mean, both games, I'd say he was the player from watching the game to then watching the film after the game that I had the biggest increase in what I thought about him. You watch the game, you don't always see everything. And a player like Peebles can be making, penetrating the backfield more than you really think he does just with the initial watch. But boy, was he effective both games.
Ken, me and you actually, I found you found one of my tweets on Twitter, but it was Peebles' effort versus the run, especially that first game that caught my eye. I mean, he was knocked for being small, and he fell to the 6th ground because you can't put him out there. He can't stand up to double teams. He can't do this. He can't do that. And he actually alluded to it today in his presser, or was that yesterday, where he's like, "Yeah, I know, and I'm out to prove him. I'm out to prove it." And that first game, though, was something that you and I agreed on, that we noticed it. Like, Fub knows that people doubt him, and I feel like he knows his body, his height and weight. I thought he does a good job of anticipating the double team, and I liked his eyes and his mental awareness for what's going on. Mentally, I think Fub is really, really sharp. So when he feels the double team coming, he knows he's undersized, and he just scrapes, tries to fit in between the creases and really just hold his ground in different ways. So a man that's very aware of his skill set, I would say, with Peebles.
2 things about that. The first is, when you're Peebles' size, you really tend to be better at learning how to use your feet, the angle, create your foot perpendicular to the man who's blocking you with each foot is what you're trying to accomplish. And he's good at doing that. And Okoye, with all his massive size, that isn't a technique he's really mastered yet. Michael Pierce mastered it. Tony Siragusa really knew how to do it. The other thing about Peebles, going back to the first game, he had that great 2-gap play on the right guard Sills for the Colts, who was trying to block him to let the quarterback free of the pocket. And the quarterback started to leave the pocket, but Fub 2-gapped him right in place, and he allowed that play to be clamped down from each side because he was able to stand up stills at that point.
Doing that old school Ravens 2-gapper. It shocked me. I'm glad you brought that up. And you know what else I expect then is for Peebles to be used on these stunts where they can stun him to the outside. So I feel like they're going to use him in the pass rush and get him involved kind of even earlier than we expect him. excuse me, more than we expect. So of course, Travis Jones and Matabike, you want them to play as much as they can while preserving them for the season and not wearing their butts out. But Peebles will have his chance, and he's just scrappy. And I wouldn't be surprised, Ken, if they give Peebles some snaps at 5 tech like they did Matabike. Put him out on edge for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, and just let him overpower, give those tackles a different look, a different type of body, because Matabike sure was effective when he got those chances.
On it won't matter under or over on stunts. He's a very valuable player. He's got the quickness to be the over guy on stunts. To be the under guy on stunts, I pity the guy who's left with a half block on Peebles, with Peebles' understanding of leverage and relative height and all those advantages.
Right.
Got a great rip move. He can spin right off you. I mean, as an under player, I think he could be potentially devastating. And it's not like the Ravens aren't blessed with several of those. I mean, Travis Jones, unbelievable player in those circumstances and whatnot. But you go back a few years, Tim Jernigan was that kind of guy. It's a real skill, and I think that's where he could help the team just about as much as anywhere. And if you're closing out a game with Peebles, I really like that in terms of the other team has to pass every down. You don't need a big nose tackle anymore. You can have Peebles as an undersized nose in there, and he can create all kinds of pass rush problems.
Love it. Great breakdown. Great stuff from Ken. Great stuff from the chat. Thank you guys so much. Thanks again, Don, for gifting those memberships. Got up to 25 memberships, and with everything being demonetized on the channel, that really helps. I hope you guys enjoy the new camera. Now I'm seeing the wrinkles a little bit more, Ken. So it's a little bit scary for me. I shave up now. I don't have the stubble. But yeah, the new camera and the graciousness of everybody here, it struck me, Ken, and I did a members only video, and it's just so gracious, man. Everybody's so nice. I just love it. It means a lot. The edge play. Now I just listed 5 guys here. Away, Van Noy, Mike Green, Tavius Robinson, David Ajabo. Ken, Mike Green's gotten a ton of interest from fans, and I love it. I love it. He gives us something, I think, that frankly I can't remember us drafting a guy quite like Mike Green as far as his skill set, because whatever guy you want to bring up, or whatever guy we sign, even Doomerville, Mike Green just does it a little differently, Ken, to me.
Yeah, Doomerville would be maybe the closest in terms of a guy who's extremely slippery. Very unusual for a young player like him to have as many pass rush moves. And now we've seen an interception. He had one in, I can't forget if it was the very beginning of camp or in OTAs, but there was a little boot right. He wasn't fooled, but he ended up dropping off between level 0 and 1, we'll call it, and had an interception then. I think that was against Rush. And then he apparently had an interception again today. So he has some Sam chops, which is always exciting. But then also, a guy who can certifiably rush the passer whenever you ask him to.
Right. Zach was like, yeah, he's great dropping in coverage, but we don't want him to do that too much. We want him going forward. I thought that was really well said, especially, Ken, from us coming from the wink type defenses and Rex Ryan, where they just want a guy like Mike Green to eat, that we got him to rush the passer. Let's let him rush the passer. Adafio Way, Kyle Van Noy. I feel like Tavius, by the way, is just such a steady player. We know what to expect from him. Adafio Way, Kyle Van Noy. Can they repeat as double-digit sack guys? And I don't mean literally will they both have double-digit sacks. I'm talking about just their overall performance, their overall presence. Do you expect Oway to take another step? Can Kyle Van Noy maintain? What have you seen from those guys out there in camp? How do they look?
Oway has gained about 20 pounds, so he's trying to play bigger this year than he has in the past. Now, what I'll say about him is I could accept a lower finish rate with a higher pressure rate. His pressure rate dropped and his finish rate improved, which is not a stable thing. He won't be able to maintain that. So he's got to improve the base of his pressure pyramid, so to speak, and get more pressures. So that's what I want to see most from him is more first pressures, get more use out of his power game, bull rush, and all the things where he's with speed to power that he ends up using a power move, I want to see him do that better. With Kyle Van Noy, it'd be very hard for him to improve on the season he's got and continue to beat Father Time the way he has. If he could be 90% of the player he was last year, that'd be terrific. So both guys, I'd expect them both to have lower sack totals if I was picking it, but doesn't mean the Ravens as a team have to have fewer sacks. I think that they can still get a lot of pressure, and players like Robinson, Green, Matabike, the slot corners will pick up sacks that weren't there before.
Yeah, a lot of contain rush too on that right side, especially. Yeah, I've noticed that from studying Ajabo. It's back again in even the preseason game against a quarterback who isn't mobile. It's just like it's a bull rush with your not just a bull rush your butt off, but a bull rush with your eyes up on the quarterback and just letting the other three guys work their magic and make sure that quarterback doesn't roll out to the right. Got Dario in here, another channel member. Thank you, Dario. It's good seeing you. I think with the injury to Adisa Isaac, ligament damage in that thing too, Ken. That's, man, a dislocated elbow, but also ligament damage. I think we should go get Clowney. If that means letting Ajabo go, so be it. Kicking it to you on that thought, Ken McKusick. What's your honest opinion there?
Yeah, I think it's a distinct possibility. Ajabo, the main issue with him, and I've got my roster up on the screen if you wanted to bring that up online at any point during the show. But the reason he's in green on my sheet is that I think he's one of the likely inactives on a week-to-week basis. So you have Ajabo on the roster, but he's purely a backup to be the fourth guy at some point during the season because he doesn't play a whole lot of special teams. And that makes him less valuable. So I'm not really keen going into the season with him on the roster. It's a fallback position. It's one, if they lost Tavius Robinson, maybe I'd be happy they had Ajabo. If they lost, I don't know. It's a pretty big drop off from what the big four give you to go down to Ajabo. And I think that it's not unreasonable to say, hey, we should consider Clowney now. Before, when we had six guys and Adisa Isaac was one of them, and you're giving up on the last 3 years of his rookie contract. To me, that's not reasonable to go get Clowney.
No, they're not going to give up. If it comes to Isaac and Ajabo, there's no way they're going to give up on an extra 2 years. And Isaac is, Ajabo's a free agent. Isaac's got 2 more years after this year. So that would be unreasonable. Sorry for jumping in there. Great question, though, Dario. And, my opinion, Clowney was so good for us, and it looked like he had a good year for Carolina last year on a bad team without a lot of leads. I don't know. It would be hard for me to say no to him just because he seemed to fit in so well here. So the edge group, moving on. Here we go. The big discussion this week, again, with the choice on the rosters. I'm coming down to my last spot between Jay Higgins and Bo Braid. I think there's one spot available for either one of those guys, and maybe this Saturday's game helps decide it. Maybe who can go to the practice squad, who they think they can sneak through to the practice squad decides it. But this group overall, Roquan aside, I think we know what we have in Roquan. What's the plan for this linebacker group? Who do you think is going to play next to Roquan on early downs? Simpson, I would guess, is getting the chance. And if you say Simpson can, how short of a leash is there for Trenton? Could he be pulled or replaced like he was last year?
Well, I mean, I think that gives you an idea of how short the leash could be. We didn't know anything about Trenton Simpson going into last year. Like we had this debate about which is more important, all of his career at Clemson or the last 26 snaps against the Steelers. And you were for the 26 snaps against the Steelers, I know. And I could hope, but he did not play well last year, and he did not look like a converted safety last year. He's come to camp enormous. Absolutely sculpted and enormous. That he and Travis Jones really stand out as two of the biggest guys in camp relative to what we're used to. But anyway, he'll get the first shot, and then if things don't work out, Buchanan could be in there. Buchanan is the backup at both Mike and Will, so there's that to be considered. And then I think you've exactly characterized the last roster spot on defense correctly. I think it's between Higgins and Braid. I don't think it's absolutely impossible, by the way. It could be Martin too. Martin gives you a little bit more speed on special teams, and he also has played extremely well in the preseason. So I think it could be either one of those, but I think it's one of those two, or Braid is the last roster spot on defense. I can't hear you right now. Yeah.
Chandler Martin, correct?
Chandler, that's right. Chandler.
Because hey, let's not forget about our guy Keon Martin.
And he could really be
shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out to little Keon, man. Sacks for a safety, tackles in the backfield, ferocious. A little bit of Tavon Young to his game. So I was just using the Martin for an excuse to bring up Keon, because I'm not sure if I'll put him on the corner list. We got one of our MVPs in here. It is Heather McCubbins. Awesome picture of her daughters. Just saying hey to us. Heather. If you remember Heather, she was a Desmond Watson fan in the draft.
Oh, really?
The big nose tackle. Yeah. So the family runs deep, Ken. They know their stuff. And also checking in for the first time this year, it's Mr. James. Two of his favorite YouTubers, get right to the point, no fluff, no drama. Mr. James, I've been responding to your comments. I've been seeing you check in on the replay. It's just great to see you back for another season, man. Let's do this this time. I hope we're doing these pods all the way until February, Mr. James, and putting the draft stuff off. Lamar needs one. Henry needs one. The city needs one. It's our time, Mr. James. Let's do it. Let's do it, my friend. Just great to see everybody in here. But yeah, short leash on Trenton Simpson, though, by the way. If he starts off slow or Zach Orr doesn't like something, because Buchanan, to me, there's a cut up of Buchanan on the channel. There's a cut up of Jay Higgins on the channel. Teddy looked a little hesitant, whereas Jay Higgins was attacking. It looked like he is just a natural born linebacker, despite his physical limitations, which is why he got undrafted. But man, Jay Higgins is all over everything. His drops and pass coverage look better than some of the safeties we've had in there. I don't say that lightly. Just like he's always make sure he gets that extra couple of yards. As soon as the flat's clear, he's headed back. Just a beautiful linebacker play. So Trenton Simpson, Teddy Buchanan, and Jay Higgins. Ken, what do you have on that?
So, one of the interesting things is going to be the Ravens going to go to a lot of dime this year and replace all of these guys other than Roquan on third down. I don't know that they've decided yet, and they probably will start the season as a committed nickel team with Simpson in there. But this really decides one of the roster spots in a big way, because probably the best chance to be a dime linebacker for you, or one of the chances, is Braid. You could move Hamilton up there, and you could put Lowry, say, on the back end, or Kane on the back end on third down. I think that's actually more of a chance than just keeping the same back end people and putting Braid up in the box or Kane up in the box. And so, there is really a question as to that last spot, and whether you want that one more linebacker, because that's one more big for special teams. That's important, because only certain guys. That's the reason I say that. Tight ends and linebackers are the guys who generally have the inside of the punt formations, both on defense and on offense. You need to have bigger players on special teams for that, and so you can't generally use a safety there.
Right, closer to the kicker that they are. Those 4 and 5, the 4 and 5 spots for those that number those things. You need bigger bodies, which is why Ajabo, and him not playing those units works against him in that aspect. But it's going to be a really close call, because I'm going to switch to the safeties, Ken, and leave the corners for last now. My argument, the argument for keeping Braid is that, the cornerback room with the 6 corners that we're projected to keep has Jair Alexander in it, has Chidobe Awuzie in it, has Jalen Armour-Davis in it. You talk about injury history extensive for all 3 of those. So if there are an injury, you probably want that. The argument for Braid is we need an extra DB. Lowry came up as a corner. We can play him there in a pinch. We can play Kyle Hamilton, of course, in the slot if we need to, and move Marlon outside. If Jair needs some maintenance on his knee during the season. So the best argument I have for Bo Braid is that we could use the extra DBs, Ken.
I mean, wouldn't that be an argument also for Keon Martin, though, to have an actual corner in there?
Sure.
Or
There
Marquise
you go.
Robinson, maybe, who's played very well so far in 2 preseason games. Marquise Robinson seems like a longer shot than that, but he will be a guy the Ravens will be very interested in making sure he makes it through to the practice squad. He's fast, and he's shown some good cover skills so far. I think the value of Braid, I think, is you get a ton of special teams snaps out of him as a core special teamer. He plays 4 units. In fact, he might play 5. He might play the kickball team too. I'm not sure. But the other thing you get out of him is a potential to play dime back. And you don't have that out of a Keon Martin. Say he's not the physical type you'd probably like in that dime spot.
Right. Sure. A lot of tackling, and that would be that. But Keon does look pretty darn feisty.
Yep.
Yeah. A lot of Tavon like in there. So Malachi Starks, Ken, I just want to hear it straight from you. Being out at camp all these days, people are just gushing over his maturity, how he's in the right spot, very few mistakes, looks very fluid, rangy. In your own words, Ken, what have you gained? What have you learned about Malachi Starks from your time out at Ravens training camp?
Yeah, I can see why the Ravens fell in love with him at draft time. And for those who don't know, it's a matter of public record. I was a big fan of Emanwari over Starks during the draft. So I like that. I liked him better. And the reason was Starks came to the NFL with so much positional understanding and so much smarts, and yet he wasn't able to duplicate what Emanwari did statistically in college. Emanwari was a much better player. They both played in the SEC, both tough competition, et cetera, et cetera. Emanwari just had a 37 passer rating against, and Starks was up around 90. And, and also gave up, 8 yards a target or whatever it was, pretty close if it wasn't that. So I liked him better, but having seen Starks in camp, what you're saying is true. I think, if he plays on the back end exclusively, I think that's the right place for him at the NFL level. I don't want to see him be one of the guys they try and make as versatile as possible. He's terrifically important to the Ravens on the back end. They don't have another true free safety on the roster. And they're I don't even know what they do if something happens to Starks. I mean, I guess they know that they put Hamilton there.
And Lowry looked pretty damn good too.
Or it might be Lowry, yeah.
Yeah, in that post. Yeah. He doesn't have a lot of experience. I would guess Hamilton would probably be first man up, but it was really encouraging to see Lowry read that route and be in such a great position. I mean, from a single high look, Ken. I mean, that's what's kind of hard to do. Ken, I want to pause for a moment. Heather's got some message in the chat. I'm not going to spell it all out. But I wanted you to know, Heather, that someone really close to me recently had a biopsy, and we were fortunate in the family that came back clear. So I didn't tell anybody about this, but a major cancer scare in my family to someone extremely close. Ken doesn't even know this.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I didn't tell but 2 or 3 people. We didn't tell anybody. So Heather, praying for you. I'm a man of faith. You will definitely be in my prayers, and your energy that I see, not just here, but on the other podcasts, and your generosity, it doesn't go unnoticed. And I just want to say I'm praying for you. I'm praying for your mom. I hope that you guys have peace. I hope that she's comfortable. I hope everything goes well. It's just tough. It's just tough. And it kind of hit me hard just because, like I said, I didn't tell nobody, but we had a serious scare. We had to get a biopsy and get a sample tested here. And, we were very lucky. So, love you, Heather. Praying for you. You got those girls that are dependent on you. So stay strong for them and take care of mom best you can there. So, Ken, I appreciate your patience there, and I'm sure you echo that message.
Oh, completely understand. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Starks, excellent player, excellent camp. Sanusi Kane, by the way, hard hitting, dare I say, mofo. He brings that Ravens energy to me to where, like, if we were going to move Kyle around and get creative, maybe put Kyle at edge. We saw Kyle at dime a little bit, to where maybe Kane is the guy that comes in as that enforcer type in the box. Maybe he can play dime as an enforcer type guy. I don't know why, Ken, because there's not a big sample for me to go off of. But Kane strikes me as a guy that can just play football. Maybe it's his plays on special teams that kind of get my attention on him. What's your thoughts on Sanusi?
Okay, so Kane was a guy coming into this year and really coming into last year, along with Braid, who what he done on the back end wasn't that impressive in college. What he did in his first year on the back end wasn't that impressive. But he and Braid both were very impressive in the preseason last year, making plays around the line of scrimmage. Braid even more so than Kane in terms of how his division of good plays was far more coming forward and near the line of scrimmage than it was on the back end. This summer, Kane's played better on the back end. He kind of separated himself, a couple interceptions, being in the right place, generally looking like he's moving pretty well. Still maybe a little slow to recognize, I would say, for a half field guy. But he separated himself from the other guys who were competing for that third safety spot. Now, at the time, that was Bo Braid and Keandre Jackson and Desmond Igbinosun. Now, I don't think anybody believes Jackson or Igbinosun is going to make the team. It's unfortunate. Both of them are UDFAs. One of them maybe makes the practice squad. Maybe one of them is even the backup free safety if something were to happen. But the two guys who have separated themselves are Kane, who played pretty well on the back end. I think is the number 3 safety, if I had to say, on this team now. And Lowry, who is the thing that separated him is brains. Okay, Lowry is a mechanical engineering degree holder at University of Tennessee, Chattanooga, and he was in a rocketry program there that's recognized by NASA. He's a dead comp for Jeremy Lucien from a couple of years ago, who was a brainy kid that they kept around basically for the whole year on the rosters on the practice squad because he was showing up everybody in the rest of the safety room and kicking their ass. And this is what's good about it in terms of knowing what the play is, understanding what the read is from looking at the 22. Kind of thing. And he never played safety before. Lowry had never played safety before. Both of them came from corner. Lowry from the slot, Lucien from the outside. I mean, it's just these guys, the Ravens have a type. And they really like brainy players. And I think part of the value they get from it is that they really make the other players try harder in the film room. Now, in Lowry's case, he's translated a lot of that to the field. And he's looked really good there. And I think that the Ravens he listed a 204 originally. I think he might be a 204 on the Ravens roster. In fact, I've got that right here. Let me just take a really quick look. But yeah, Lowry is at 204 pounds, 5'9", 204. I think I've seen other numbers for him that are down at like 192.
I think that's more realistic. What do you think, Ken? I'm thinking he's
very thick. He's very
thick.
Okay. Yeah, he looks different from Ardarius in that sense. And Ardarius weighs less than that, obviously, but I would have said between 192 and 204 it's somewhere. Those are the goalposts, and I'd say it would split the uprights if you kicked it. Yeah, he's a good player. I agreed with. He's a guy who looks like he knows where he wants to be on the back end, and is great coming downhill as well. And he's made plays on the football, which are great. That the interception, Rod Woodson said easiest interception he'll ever get. The truth of the matter is, tracking that ball going back on it is not an easy thing. And in particular, when you're distracted by the receiver right in front of you, I mean, that was a good interception. The read was
pure. Yeah. And that's the most important thing to me. He reacted. When you go back and look at as soon as he saw it, he was gone. It wasn't an and one, well, I'm going to make sure, he read it perfectly. He trusted probably his film study and what he's learned, which is just super impressive. And you know what? There are some people who aren't book smart who are extremely football smart.
Yep.
But
Ray. Start with Ray.
I mean, yeah, I don't want to call anybody out for their lack of book smarts, but there are some, it doesn't always correlate. But with Lowry and his rocket scientry, that's pretty funny, man. That's pretty funny. The last group, the corners, Ken. And my question on this group is, I'm kind of especially with Jair getting so much maintenance on his knee and Awuzie missing time. I'm a little nervous about our depth. I mean, these names look phenomenal, but I'm worried that that we're not going to be able to hold up through a long season like we have. I'm a natural worrywart when it comes to those kind of things. But what's your worry level that we're going to have to dip into the TJ Tampa portion of this depth chart?
Okay, well, I was just going to say, let's let the top four go because I think we know who they are. If you ask me to handicap what's their chance, it will happen at some point this year. I don't know exactly when, but you have two guys who basically miss half the season every year, and Alexander and Awuzie, then you got a pretty good chance to lose time. Humphrey's been a guy who's battled some injuries in the past as well, and he's now getting to be older. The big concern for this unit right now is a lack in 2026 of young players. So you can bring up the names again in a second. I want to go through the bottom three because Jalen Armour-Davis is a different player this year than he was. I had him being cut in the original look at it. Then both of our 6th-round corners got hurt. And Armour-Davis is a guy who, in that very first game, did everything I could have asked in terms of changing my opinion. You know, he was healthy. He went in for extra snaps when Kone got hurt. No bad body language. He just continued to play very good football. Found the ball in the air. Made plays on the ball when he found it. It was just an outstanding game for him in terms of checking all the boxes. So I think he is the number 5 corner right now. I think you've got him properly pegged there. TJ Tampa and Keon Martin are different roles for who they would replace. Keon Martin, a pure slot guy, and TJ Tampa is a guy they want to use on the outside. He's been a step slow in camp. And word is he had 2 interceptions today, which I'm really going to want to see on film. But he
probably not going to. Probably not going to, though, right?
It depends. The Ravens might put out the video on him, right?
Okay. All right.
So
right.
I think the Ravens have every reason to want to do that because they're not going to cut him, so they may as well get the fans excited about him. But anyway, that was much needed. Let's put it that way. In these first 2 preseason games, he's been the guy they've been targeting. He's been the guy they've been going after pretty much all day. He's been out there. Most of both games. He played 38 and 80 snaps, I believe, on defense in the 2 games. And he's had 3 PDs, which is good on the surface, but every single one of them was a ball that was a no-look PD that hit them in the back of his body. I think it's leg, back, and head. The 3 or shoulder maybe and head on the 3 PDs. And it's just that's not,
it's a lost start.
Not very good. Yeah,
it's a lost start, Ben. It's a lost start, my friend. From when we first started watching football, everyody turned around and found that football. Now it's like if you find
that is a lost start. Yes,
PDs. Sorry, no. Finding the ball is a lost art. I'll stand by that, Ken.
Yeah,
I'll stand by that. It seems like when we were growing up, if you were a DB, you had to be able to turn and find the ball. But now it's like you have to run a 4.3. You have to be 6 foot tall. You have to be a certain kind of athlete to even make it as an NFL corner. That turning and finding the ball is like quality number 7 that they're looking for, from the first 5 or 6. That's my theory on that, is why the skill has gone out of style. It's just like, just like a baseball pitcher not knowing how to pitch. Well, you got to throw 95 before you even get a chance. A little bit of an exaggeration there, but you get the correlation.
Part of the issue with Tampa is his speed is a tick slow for the outside. And so at 4.59, he's chasing like hell to catch up a lot of the time. And what I saw a lot of him in college was that he had an ability to stay with a wide receiver with a lot of hand fighting that he might or might not get away with in the NFL, but stay with the corner while he was hand fighting him and still be able to peak for the football. I just haven't seen that at the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different level athlete that he's defending, so it's tough. But yeah, hey Tanja, it's great seeing you in here. Look at the membership there from Tanja. This is just beautiful, man. I've got a lot of love. But yeah, when I was going through my family stuff, Ken, I had the live stream and people were gifting memberships and signing up for members, and I felt that love and the renewal, of doing content. I'm like, you know what, I'm going to go through with this and keep doing it. And despite the YouTube being very stingy in the NFL, it's the NFL claiming it. So there's no fighting it. Ken, we went a little overtime tonight. I appreciate you sticking it out with me. Please tell people, like you do on your show, please tell people where they can find your work, what you got coming out, what have you been doing. Ken, Ben, if you guys don't know, one of the hardest working men in show business. I've been to a baseball game with him. He's, him and his wife, lovely wife, Maureen, keeping score, takes his stuff very seriously, going from training camp, coming back, doing daily pods. Love you, Ken. What's going on with your channel, though? Let me let you go ahead and say it.
Appreciate it. So if you want to follow me, I'm at Film Study Ravens on Twitter /X. Film Study Baltimore Ravens Talk is the podcast that'll be on all your favorite platforms. You can search for it anywhere, really. You can go to the website, filmstudybaltimore.com. That is the articles. A lot of people like the preseason articles because I look at every single player on the roster who's not pretty much guaranteed a roster spot and evaluate their play. So you get to see a lot of information on that. We got a good show that came out today on optimal timeout usage. A guy who did a show, he did it with me months ago, but it finally got done. Outstanding theoretical discussion of that. And we're going to be talking about the inactives will come out tomorrow, who we expect the 5 inactives to be on a weekly basis. And I think we got kind of an insight into that here tonight, but some choices the Ravens will have to make on a weekly basis to trim to 48.
Ken's got a lot of good stuff. And what me personally, I think what Ken is known for and what people many people follow him for, number one, is O-line scoring on a week-to-week basis. So if you want to take the time, and there are a lot of YouTube channels out there that break down O-line play, Ken is not just picking out a handful of plays to grade and go over. He's grading the whole thing. How many pulls did they make? How many pancakes did they have? How many blocks did they make? How many did they miss? How many pressures did they allow? Now, I can't say that Ken and I will agree on every play, just like you might not agree with Ken on every single play, but his grading system is consistent. He's looking for the same thing, the same time, the same amount of pressure, what he considers pressure, what he does. So it's the most consistent grading you can get. It's more consistent to PFF than some of the other grading sites. And then for me, I enjoy the Know Your Foe episode. It's kind of like what we do here at Huddle It Up Films, where we break down the matchups and look at the advantages and disadvantages. But Ken will have somebody from Buffalo on his pod week 1 to talk about the Bills and that kind of thing, and he does that every week. So, with that, I just want to say thank you so much to my football family. I love my football family. Thanks to Ken McKusick for coming on. Prayers out to Heather. We'll be thinking about you. You will be in my prayers tonight. I see TY coming in. It's all good, brother. You can catch it on the replay. We'll talk on Twitter. But I really appreciate everybody in this chat. And with that, Ken, could you please say good night to everybody out there?
Good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.